Hey folks, today I've got the brand new Pixel Watch 2 here at Google's hardware launch event. Now this unit has a bunch of new changes in it, both hardware as well as software. So I'm going to run through all those new changes right now, starting off with the hardware. Now the first thing is that the case size is essentially the same as it was in the past. And with that, that means you're going to get compatibility with all the existing hardware bands. However, there are some changes on the outside that are worthwhile noting. Number one, they've increased the durability of the actual glass on it, which is notable. They've also switched to 100% recycled materials for it, and they've reduced the weight by 10%. But the vast majority of the change on the Pixel Watch 2 are actually inside of it. First up being they've switched to watchOS 4. The good news there though, that's also coming to the Pixel Watch 1. The timelines now are a little bit fuzzy, but that is coming pretty soon as well. Now, of course, as you go inside the unit, that's probably the biggest chunk of the new changes. Number one is they've gone ahead and added a new quad-core CPU. That's going to increase the performance of the device, but also go ahead and power a bunch of the new features I'm going to talk through. There's like 15 new features on my list that are all software features. They're going to leverage that new CPU. Yet despite that new CPU, they're also increasing the battery life. It's up to a true 24 hours with an always-on display, which is notable. And atop that, they're making the charging time faster as well. You can do a 12-hour charge, so basically 12 hours worth of watch wearable time in just 30 minutes. However, it's on the back side of the watch that you're going to see the biggest visual changes to those internals. There's three new sensors that are being employed here. The first is a new heart rate sensor. It's a multi-path heart rate sensor compared to the previous single-path heart rate sensor. That means there's multiple paths to go ahead and validate those photodiodes with the LEDs. There's 5 photodiodes and 5 LEDs. And with that, Google says they're going to get 40% more accurate heart rate out of the Pixel Watch 2 compared to the previous generation. That's pretty notable because the previous generation Pixel Watch 1 in my test was actually pretty darn good from a heart rate accuracy standpoint. So to see 40% better could make it arguably like market leading. We'll have to see in the testing coming up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, then definitely do that so you can see that full in-depth review pretty shortly here. Now the back sensor plate is actually split into basically two pieces. The first is a new skin temperature sensor. While the Pixel Watch 1 had skin temperature showing in the Fitbit app, that was a bit of a proxy. It wasn't actually directly measuring that, versus now they're directly measuring that skin temperature. Meanwhile, on the other half of that plate is a new ECDA sensor. Basically, it's going to go ahead and measure tiny little bits of sweat on your wrist and then determine whether or not you're stressed or whatever the case may be from that and show that in the Fitbit app via the body responses. This is something we've seen on other Fitbit products in the past, and now we're seeing it on the Pixel Watch 2 as well. And then leveraging that new heart rate sensor is also a regular heart rate notification. So basically a background process that runs. If your heart rate is either too high or too low, it'll give you a quick notification on the watch. However, that's mostly just the health side. The sports side is also seeing a bunch of improvements. The first one is new zone pacing, both for heart rate as well as direct pace when you're out running. So you can set, for example, a given target pace that you want. You want to run, say, 7:30s a mile or 4:30 a kilometer, whatever the case may be, you can do that. You can also set a zone alert, basically between two different kind of a high or low pacing to keep you in that zone. And then the same is true on the heart rate side. You can see, for example, whether or not you're in a targeted heart rate zone that you want. And then you can see on these new data pages whether or not you're in that zone. In fact, there's actually a lot of new data pages across the board on this watch. And some of that, of course, is from Wear OS 4, and some of that is just a redesign that both Fitbit as well as Google have done on this watch. They've also added the ability to automatically recognize workout types. This is something that was not there previously, but is now on the Pixel Watch 2, and that also includes automatic start and stop. You can see a list of all those on the screen right there. One thing that's notably absent though from the Pixel Watch 2 that was announced on the Fitbit Charge 6 just last week is heart rate broadcasting. So if you have something like a Peloton bike like this, you could broadcast from the Charge 6 to a Peloton bike or to any app that supports Bluetooth heart rate. That's something that's not there today in the Pixel Watch 2, and I'm hoping we'll see that because I think it's a pretty useful feature given they've dedicated an entire studio space to showing that particular feature off. Now beyond the sports and sensor side of things, you're also seeing a number of improvements from the connectivity realm. So for example, Google Assistant can now query things like steps and sleep. You can see that right here, querying that sleep as to how much you slept last night or last week, as well as how many steps you might have done last week. This is notable because while Apple announced that just a couple weeks ago for Siri, that feature on Apple side isn't coming till later on this year, whereas Google is rolling it out today. However, beyond that, Google's also porting their safety check and emergency sharing feature onto the watch. So that's basically two different components. The first piece is safety check. That allows you to set a time on the watch where you expect to be done with that particular activity. So say you're going out for a run or whatever the case may be. If you don't remember to check in as safe at the end of that, it'll automatically notify your emergency contacts. When you get within the last 60 seconds of that, it'll basically buzz everything. It'll buzz your watch, it'll buzz your phone to go ahead and basically confirm that either you need more time or that you're good to go. That'll then escalate into the emergency sharing feature. That allows you to share your current live location via Google Maps to a contact that you predefined ahead of time. The emergency sharing, while functionally works kind of similar to Live Track and other devices, it's really not designed entirely for that. It's designed for, as the name implies, emergency sharing. Hopefully that's something we'll see them expand out to just general Live Track when I go on for a run, to be able to notify my friends and family just so they can keep tabs on me. Still, you can certainly use it for that if you want to. You just have to be okay with it saying it's an emergency every time, as opposed to just being me going out for a run. In concert with both of those things, there's also the ability to see your medical ID information on the watch. So if something happens to you, they can at least find out what your deal is from that medical ID information. Now, a couple final features to note here. First off, they're adding the ability to do backup and restore of watches, as well as the ability to transfer from one phone to another phone on the watch side itself. So that's all new on the Pixel Watch 2. Also, there's basically 3 color combinations or 3 color options and a gazillion different band options that you can choose from. And then it starts off at $349 for the Wi-Fi edition and $399 for the cellular edition. Those will start shipping next Thursday, October 12th. Now, as you can see, there's no major hardware change to this watch. In fact, this is what we saw with Apple when they announced their Apple Watch Series 9 this past year. We're seeing more incremental changes. That's whether it's from Google or from Apple or even from Samsung or Garmin or anywhere else. We're getting to the point where people don't want massive changes in watches. They just want those little features that make their life a little more easy. And in this case, the 15 or 17 or so little features are much appreciated. Hopefully we'll see a lot of those ported back to the Pixel Watch 1. Google's confirmed a few of them already, and over time we'll probably see those in upcoming feature drops. Anyways, if you found this video interesting and useful, give it a like down the bottom there or hit subscribe. There is plenty more sports technology goodness coming up. The next 7 days are by far the busiest 7 days in the wearables, etc. kind of realm we've seen in years. So you don't want to miss any of that. With that, have a good one.